Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 31, and today we're going to be talking about the initial questing zones for Horde and Alliance in Warlords of Draenor Beta. Yes, we're talking about Frostfire Ridge, and we're talking about Shadowmoon Valley. Woo! Lots of fun stuff to talk about today. So, I have been going through all of the quest zones and doing all the fun things that you can do in all these zones, and I've taken a character on both sides, both Horde and Alliance, and gotten it to level 92. Not only that, but I finished the whole zone as much as I possibly could. This is beta, there's some buggy quests that don't let you, continue on, but I got as much done as I could in order to be able to give you a fair comparison of each of the zones. And certainly, of course, I did tackle the dungeons, and we'll talk a little bit about them, even though they're in the zones, but they're, part of the theme, I suppose, so we'll just tack them on a little bit as well. So, lots to talk about. Let's get into it. So first off, let's talk about some similarities, some whatever. So, first off, the zones overall were about the same amount of time to level through the whole thing. I'm talking about 6 to 8 hours to get to level 92 and then to finish it all. Probably around that time frame. Maybe 10 hours for the completionist for every little bit and bob in there. I don't know, we'll see. There's certainly a lot of the rares and a lot of other things to find and cool side quests and whatnot. But 6 to 8 hours to get there. I have no idea if that's going to be what the actual leveling time will be once we get there. 4 hours per level, I suppose. Does that mean it's only going to take us 40 hours to get to level 100? WTF Blizz? No, I don't know. And I have no idea what the further zones are going to be in terms of flow and speed and all other stuff. But anyway, the way it stood right now, about 6 to 8 hours to get to 92 and finish most things in the zones. So that's the same across both sides, and I would hope that it would be. Otherwise, people would be complaining about, oh, it's easier to level on Alliance side or whatever. No. It's the same. We're all good. We're all good. And of course, on both sides, the garrisons are central to the questing experience. You start there, you set down your garrison, and you go off into the world. That's perfect. Exactly the same on both sides. Even some of the starting quests are exactly the same on both sides. But, we'll get to garrisons in a moment. But, again, central garrisons questing. Yep, for sure. Now, on both sides, they both had sort of a major event or a quest chain that led you to some big conclusions, some big results. And so that is on the Horde side, you went and conquered Bladespire Citadel, and on the Alliance side, you took out Karabor. So, how did those feel? Here's the first differences that I'm going to highlight. So again, both of them were it wasn't just a quest chain that was, 10 or 15 quests that told, whatever, it was all in one area or something. It was both of them telling you a story, and both of them leading you to some big conclusions, some big result in the world. So in the case of Bladespire Citadel, you're taking it back over, for the Frostwolves, and you're trying to, conquer it back off and boot the ogres out of there and all that other kind of stuff. For Karabor, there's a more sinister, plot and everything, and there's some trippy experiences. I won't ruin it all for you, but anywho, you end up, taking it back for the Alliance and everything. So, again, similar sort of off we go to conquer something. But how did those feel? How did those feel for me? Well, I'm going to have to give the overall feel of the progression of it to the Horde side. I'm going to have to give it to the Bladespire Citadel. It really felt like you were working towards something and you were getting there, and it was building and building, and then you get to the top and it's like, oh yeah, we conquered this whole thing, cool. And the quests were varied enough. There were gather 5 of these, kill 10 of these, plant some banners and some dudes. Yeah, okay, sure, that's questing. Welcome to MMOs. But there was a couple things to break it up. You had this thing where you're dodging these balls, flaming rock balls coming down and all this other stuff. And there was stuff to break it up, and then killing big dudes, lieutenants along the way. So, I don't know. Just the overall feel for me felt like this is building to something. Okay, cool. On the Karabor side, with respect to that, it felt like, okay, the opening of it was neat. You did this like big bombing run that felt like, what was it, from the Cataclysm? Maybe it was Cataclysm. But you got the big flaming ball. You became a big flaming ball, or you were in some machine and you like were slaughtering like 1,000 gnomes. The opening quest for Karabor felt the same way. You're in this like dragon and you're shooting down stuff and it's just like, here's the Iron Horde. Peace out. You're all dead. So that felt, neat, of course, to do that much destruction on your own. But then like the subsequent quests were just sort of like, well, get this far. Okay, now get this far. There's a little fight over here, but the next part is just getting you this far. And it just, I don't know, it didn't give the sort of better feeling to me. It felt like we were just sort of progressing through. We were just walking through the place. And certainly you had to do a number of things and kill stuff, and there, it put you on rails. You were going the right paths and going there, etc., etc. But it just didn't build for me. It didn't build for me. Now, what I will say is that the ending encounter, so to speak, for the Alliance side was better than the Horde side. So on the Horde side, you get to the final guy, the final fight, so to speak, and all your buddies are busy. You got to fight this mage kind of guy, and he does some fairly deadly things. You got to watch out for fire on the ground that grows, and he shoots these rocks at you and all that other kind of stuff. But it's a pretty simple encounter, pretty simple stuff. Once you learn where not to stand, you're pretty well done. It's like, oh, okay, he repeats those same things, we're good to go. On the Alliance side, it really felt like, okay, he's got some stuff, and he's got some encounters, but it really felt deadly. And in fact, I did die the first time, actually due to lag. No, yes, it was lag. I lagged out, DC'd, came back, I was dead. For reals. For reals this time. I don't die to lag. Anywho. But it really did feel deadly when I finally was able to get back in and pull it, without the DCs and all that other stuff. It really did feel somewhat deadly, and I was like, holy crap, my hunter here has like never been in any danger through all these questing experiences, and I'm at a third health. Whoops. Okay, I should probably watch for that bombardment stuff that's coming down, and it's coming down not just in a line or something, but it's coming down fairly randomly, so I'm dancing between things, and I'm like, oh man, this is actually pretty rough. And they may nerf it at some point or buff it, who knows. But the Karabor final encounter felt like, woo, that was rough. I got through that. Cool. And the Horde one was like, okay, I learned that stuff, pew pew, done. I'm done. Good to go. So again, I feel like for the big quest chains, the Horde side sort of had the overall best experience of building and what was happening. The Alliance side, you really got the last encounter. You got the good last encounter, the one that's really, really rough and really interesting, at the very least. So there you go. That's the comparison between the major events and the quest chains for both sides there. So what should we talk next? Let's talk layout of zones and terrain and all that other kind of stuff. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to give this one to the Horde side, even though, I don't know, you'll see why I say unfortunately. So on the Horde side, we have Frostfire Ridge. It's cold, it's mountainous, there's coldness and snow and frost wolves and all that other kind of stuff. And from a zone perspective, it looks okay. It's not ugly or weird or anything. But, that's just how it is. It's just a cold zone. I mean, it's certainly an upgrade from, the Wrath cold zones and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, it's better looking than that. Okay, sure. But it gives that same, feel of like Ice Crown or something. Not Ice Crown, the zone, not the Citadel. For the Alliance side, Shadowmoon Valley is just freaking gorgeous. It is ridiculously gorgeous. I mean, I had people watching my stream going, wow, that's a really big graphic upgrade. How did they do that? Whoa, look at that stuff. And they're not even talking about like the character models. For the most part, I was playing a Night Elf, which is upgraded, sure, but they were looking at, me looking up at the sky and looking up at the overall terrain and everything, and it just looks pretty. And there's little nooks and crannies, and there's places that are just like vegetation-wise, and then there's like plains, and it's just looks awesome. Looks awesome. Definitely have to give the edge to the Alliance. Right here. If we were done talking, right here, Alliance side looks better. But the terrain on the Alliance side in Shadowmoon Valley, there's like these terrace type approaches where it's like, can I get from here to here? Maybe if I do the weird jumpy thing and try to jump this way and then jump up this way, hey, look, I'm there. Maybe sometimes not. Or maybe it's just that easy to walk straight up to it. You don't know. And it's just so frustrating. And if you watch my streams, if you watch, I'm going to have footage of the Alliance zones more so here in the next few days, I hope. But if you watch me, I just get so frustrated by the terrain. Because I'm like, I need to get up here. That's where my quest mob is, or where this rare is. But I don't know, because there's these terraces stacked here, and there's this other one here. Do I go around over to here? No. I hate the flow of the zone of how the terrain is laid out. And the quests and everything could be awesome, but certainly Frostfire Ridge does not have any of that kind of weirdness. I had some complaints about, like, I don't know if the quest is up here or way down here in like 1 or 2 instances, but for the most part, you know where you're going, you can get there. There's, maybe you have to go around some mountains and stuff, but it's just like, I can get around in Frostfire Ridge. Not the case in Shadowmoon Valley. Again, all of this is my opinion. You're going to read other opinions and people are out there, but this is just my frustration with the Shadowmoon Valley. It's so gorgeous of a zone, but this piece right here just makes it rough to be leveling on. So, there you go. There's my opinion on the terrain and the prettiness. And again, you should take my opinion on the beautifulness of Shadowmoon Valley as a pretty big opinion, because I'm not a guy who really pays attention much to that kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, okay, here's my quests and give me my loots and let's get to raiding and let's do all that kind of stuff. But this is it really looks pretty. It really freaking looks pretty. So I'm going to have a video soon with the ending experience, the Caribor stuff. And you'll get a chance to see that prettiness and all that other kind of stuff along with it. So I'll have, that highlighting soon, because a lot of people were interested in that piece. So, take a look for that soon. But, yeah, that's my opinion on the overall feel of the terrain and the prettiness of the zone. So, there you go. So, what about overall quest feel? So, pretty much even. I would have to give maybe Frostfire a little bit of the edge, because at one point, certainly as always, garrisons are essential to the experience, and you're going out and all that kind of stuff. But once you sort of branch out further, how does it feel? In Frostfire, you sort of had like maybe 2 or 3 choices of where to go next and what to do, and you maybe follow this path and you get a couple more up here, and then you can go back and do this section if you want to, or maybe this goes further. I don't know, whatever. But there was like 2 or 3 choices, so to speak, as to where to go next. In Shadowmoon Valley, I got to a point where I had like 5 breadcrumbs all like around the edges of the map, and I was like, where do I go next? 5 was like just too many choices for me. I'm like, well, I'm nearest to this one, I guess I'll go this way, but I was almost equidistant from them, so it was, I don't know. So that's my only, slight complaint with the whole quest feels of that. For both of the zones, the quests are certainly similar to what you expect. There are some interesting ones thrown in there. I'm not going to spoil it all, but, gather 5 of this, kill 10 of this, blah, blah, blah. There's all of that. Yeah, MMOs. Duh. But, I don't know. So I'd have to slightly give that edge to Frostfire just for the sort of less choices, but, there you go. Oh, and certainly both of them had, like, the whole pop-up quests or just the things to discover or the rares and all that other stuff. So, and speaking of rares and monsters, don't have too many opinions on all of those. There were some that were even unfinished. They were like, you're not going to see these guys in the future. They're just not going to be in the zone. So, you know, for me, 6 of one, half a dozen of another in terms of monsters and how they were and all the other kind of jazz. I don't know. I'm not too into the models and that piece of it. It certainly, they seem to fit thematically with what was in the zone. So I was just like, okay, give me my 5 of these. Let's get this done. So yeah, you know, there you go. And then, you know, a couple more things to go. So let's talk with the dungeons that were in the 2 zones. So in, Frostfire Ridge, there's Blood Maw slag mines, and in Shadowmoon Valley, of course, there is Shadowmoon burial grounds. Duh. Makes sense. Again, you'll see guides for the dungeons soon enough. I gotta get on those. So you can get, you know, form your opinions on the dungeons. Blood Maw slag mines, certainly it's an interesting dungeon. I was able to get through it all. Some good encounters and some good stuff going on there. Shadowmoon burial grounds, pretty rough right now in terms of tuning. They're probably going to tune it quite down because a lot of groups aren't getting past like the first 2 bosses. People have been able to down it, so it's not impossible, but it's pretty rough. Pretty rough. Certainly for a pug group that gets put together, really rough. Unless you have someone sort of calling out the directions and what exactly people need to do, and people follow the directions, which is, of course, not what always happens. Not what always happens. But one thing I would like to mention with the zones, with the dungeons, that is, in Shadowmoon Burial Grounds, you sort of, if you want to get access to it, just from a standpoint of walking into it, it's sort of behind this gated, phased area. So you kind of need to follow that quest chain in order to get into it if you wanted to, say, walk in with a 5-man group. Obviously, 99% of the time, probably people are using the LFD, looking for dungeon group finder stuff, and that's not going to be an issue. But I thought I'd mention that because it might be weird later when you're trying to do challenge modes or something. So, I don't know. Just throw it out there. It's minor point. So, lastly, the garrisons. Let's talk the 2 garrisons. So, Horde and Alliance side. I wasn't able to upgrade the Horde garrison yet to the other side. Quick story. I got to level 92 on the alpha on Horde side, which is what I'm basing my opinions mostly on this. And then when they turned to beta, they wiped all the characters, so I had to start over again. I got to the Alliance side, and you know, I figured I'd seen most of what's on Horde, so I did all the Alliance side, got it done. And then on Alliance side, I was able to figure out how you upgrade the garrison to level 2. So I've seen the level 2 garrisons on Alliance side. I've seen pictures of the Horde side garrisons for level 2, and I've obviously upgraded or got my garrison to a decent point once getting to level 92 way back at Alpha. Again, sorry for the diversion, but that's just what my experience was so far. But what do I feel about the garrisons? Certainly, I'll be making lots of shows about garrisons in the future, but the feel for Horde versus Alliance has the better one. Sorry, there's just... I'm not going to be changed from that opinion. Unless I get to like the level 3 Horde garrison and it looks, you know, really kick-ass or something. Sorry, Alliance side got the better one. And maybe as I've been thinking about this, maybe it's because when I think garrison, I think of the sort of feel of the buildings and how it looks and whatnot. And that's more of like a Stormwind type thing as opposed to the Horde side. It just looks like someone built a campfire, a hole in the ground, and threw up some stakes and walls and said, here's your garrison. I don't know. And you know, sorry for having that opinion, but if anyone, I'm insulting anyone who worked on the garrisons, but the Horde one just seems like, and they actually did improve it. I did notice that between Alpha and Beta, they did improve the whole feel of the garrison, but it still feels like you're riding down into a campfire and then off you go up here, and the rest of it just feels like these stakes in the ground, and that's the feel. I know, again, I think it's a thematic thing for me. I think I'm thinking garrisons, buildings, cool, you know, that kind of feel, hanging out, and the Horde one just feels like a collection of people in a camp. I don't know. That's my opinion. If you got a different one, let's hear it, because I don't know. I've said that a few times, and I've been through the garrisons a number of times now and gone, yep, I still think it's that way. So, anywho, speaking of your comments or opinions or whatever, it's getting to the end of the episode, and I'd like to certainly hear from people on this episode. It's an opinionated, overrated. Certainly before I've talked facts and talked about theories and whatnot. This one's a fairly opinionated, subjective one, so I'm sure there's going to be lots of arguments back and forth about, no, you're crazy, the Horde garrison looks freaking awesome, what are you talking about? Or whatever. Or, if you're in the beta, comment below and be like, no, I really thought the questing experience for this was better, or no, I snoozed through the Alliance Caribor fight. What are you talking about? That was easy. You baddie. No. Let's hear it, because, lots of people want to know more about the beta and more about Warlords of Draenor, so what are your thoughts? And again, maybe you've looked at some of my footage or watched me stream and stuff. Again, twitch.tv/GetterRaid. I'm streaming most nights now, so had a lot of people who come sort of late night, like 11 p.m. Central. I'll hop on, and all of a sudden there'll be like 8, 10, 12 people hopping in the grid. I'm like, oh my god. So maybe I'm the late night streamer or something like that. Who knows? But yeah, there've been people just commenting on what they've been seeing and going back and forth and talking about things. So yeah, come hang out, and if you watch those streams, then, if you think I'm off my rocker with my experiences or my opinions, let me know. Post comments in YouTube, or sign up at TankSpot, and where this is usually featured, and hang out there, or Catalyst Gaming, wherever you're seeing this, wherever you're hearing it, let your opinion be known. So anyway, that's it for this episode of Overrated. This has been Overrated number 31. Yeah, 31. And we've been talking about the starting quest zone areas for Horde and Alliance and Warlords of Draenor beta. So it's Frostfire Ridge and Shadowmoon Valley. So again, thanks guys for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, all that other fun jazz. It really does help out. And I'll catch you next time. Have a good one.